Hello gaming fanatics. DayZ is a game that is in early access and generally gives people a bad frame rate. So in this video I'm going to be showing you how to improve it. I'm going to be dividing this into a few sections, probably 3 or 4. The first section where I will show you how to improve your frame rate without affecting your graphics in any way, so your graphics will stay just as they are. But you'll get hopefully a slightly better frame rate, and the second one will impact it a bit, so your graphics will get slightly worse, but you'll get a better frame rate, and then the third one it'll impact it a lot, but you'll get a better frame rate. So I hope I've explained that well. This gave me about a 200% increase in frame rate. I started at about 20 and I'm now on about 60 after doing these things. So if you have a poor frame rate, it's well worth sticking about. In case you're interested, my graphics card is a GTX 760. It's an Asus one, the DirectCU one. Just looking down the side of my case. So that's kind of where my graphics card sits. So you can hopefully judge from there what kind of frame rate you'll get. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up how much RAM it can use, how much RAM DayZ can use, and how many processors or how many cores of your processor it can use. My apologies there. So if you know how many, just bring this up. You head along to set launch options. You don't need to change tab. And here's how I've got mine set up. No splash and no pause simply get you into the game faster. They won't improve your frame rate in any way. CPU count. I have an actual 8-core processor, so mine is set to 8. If you are using an Intel processor, be careful here, because some Intel processors have got what's called hyperthreading, and if this is turned on, it'll say you've got twice as many Windows will say you have twice as many CPUs as you, or twice as many cores even as you actually have. So for example, people with an i7 might find that it's saying it has 8 or 12, when in fact if it says 8 you actually have 4, and if it says 12 you actually have 6. So just be careful of that. Make sure just to find out what processor you have, you can do this actually. Right click on computer, go to properties, and then you see mine here is an 9590 8-core processor. Yours might say, if you've got an AMD one like I have, however many cores it says it has, so you might have ×4 or something here, then it's a quad core. You might have ×2, then it's a dual core, whatever. Enter that number here. If you have an Intel one, if you got an i5, I don't think they're hyper threaded, so if it says 4-core i5, then you're probably fine. If it doesn't say how many cores you have, you can go into start, type in DXDiag, short for DirectX Diagnosis. You'll get this message asking if they're digitally signed. You can press yes or no, it displays the same thing either way. And then bring this up. So you see it says in brackets here, mine is 8 CPUs. So if yours is an i7 for example, and it says 8 CPUs, you've actually got 4 CPUs. You might have to Google your processor here, go onto Intel's website, and it will say how many cores it actually has. But that is the number you should enter there, enter into here. Otherwise you will get performance issues, I would imagine. Or it might not start at all. I'm not sure. I haven't tested. But make sure you enter how many you actually have. Max memory. You do not want to set this to your maximum, or sorry, to the actual amount of memory you have. I've set mine to half. So what I've done there is I've allowed 4 gig of, I've got 8 gig of RAM. I've allowed 4 gig for the game and 4 gig for the operating system. That is ample for both. They should only, well, recommended for the game is 4 gig. So I think that's a bit excessive. I've kept an eye on the resource monitor. It never goes that high, but 4 gig is ample. If you've got like 16 gig or something, then you can set it to 8 gig if you want. If you've got any less than that, make sure you're allowing 2 gig for the operating system. So if you've only got 3 gig of RAM, only allocate 1 gig to the to the game. Even only allocate 1 gig. So here you'll put 1024. If you've got 4 gig, you'll put 2048. If you've got, yeah, you get the idea. However much you want to allocate. So be careful there. Don't allocate all your RAM, otherwise it will have a negative impact. So that's what you can do here. That won't affect your graphical performance. Now, into the game. Alright, we are now in the game. Go to configure. Go into video. And first of all, we're going to go into quality. Set all these, basically, yeah, I've disabled clouds and shadows because I'm not too bothered by them. Terrain, that impacts quite heavily, so I've left that on low, not very low. Objects I've put on very low. That doesn't make a huge difference, I find. Rendering, ambient occlusion, disable that, and post-process if you haven't already. Those massively improve it. Turn your bloom and rotation blur if you haven't already done that. I don't know why anyone in the world would have kept them on, but if you haven't. HDR quality, I really didn't notice any difference on low or very low there, so set that to whatever. Edge smoothing, it's kind of nice if you can afford it, but I've left it disabled in favour of a better frame rate. Anti-aliasing doesn't actually impact it as much as you might expect. It might be because my graphics card is quite good at anti-aliasing. It doesn't impact my frame rate too much, so maybe your card will be affected a little bit more by it. But I managed to keep mine on normal and it still be playable. Textures. Oh yes, in video memory, set that to auto. The game has a memory leak, a graphics memory leak. So if you set that to auto, I think that helps. It doesn't stop it, but it helps it a bit. So maybe worth doing. I don't actually know for sure if it's helping, but it seemed better when I set it to auto. That's my only premise for thinking that. Texture detail it generally looks quite horrible if you drop them below normal, so maybe keep them on normal, but if it's really that bad, then turn it down. VSync, I've got that disabled just because I'm recording and it messes up my recording for some reason, but turn that on if you're not recording. That will probably help. So that concludes it for graphic settings. Now on to some config editing. Okay, so the configs are in my document, so go to documents, go into DayZ, and then here you've got a DayZ config file. Mine is already set to open with Notepad, but just go right click open with, and then you may have to click on more options, but you'll find Notepad on there almost certainly. If not, you can look for another app. Notepad++ will also work if you prefer that, which I do, but I use Notepad because it was the first option that popped up and it really doesn't matter. So in here, this had a really good, like a really positive effect on my frame rate. Set these two to 1. So change this whatever number you have here to 1. I think this was like 1,000, so change that to 1 and change that to 1. That helps massively. So save it once you've done that. That's all we're doing in here. I've not done anything to mine, so yep. open up, yeah, it is this one. So you'll have probably your computer name, as that's what mine's set to for some reason, and .dayz profile. Open with Notepad. And then here we want to find something called scene complexity. So if you just do Control F, we will type in scene, and then there we are, scene complexity. Mine was set to 300,000 here. Hang on. Yeah, 300,000. I turned it down to 100,000. That did improve it quite a lot. You can set it lower, though. If you go, this is quite a big one. This starts to make your game look a bit odd if you turn it down too low, because you can't see very much in front of your face. Same for these preferred object view distance, which is there, and shadow Z distance. You turn these three down. I have, as you can see, this set to 1,000, this set to 100, this set to 100,000. Turn down scene complexity if you're going to turn one of these three down, because that impacts it the least out of these three. I don't think shadow Z distance makes any difference to me anymore because I've turned shadows off, but it can't hurt. So yeah, turn down scene complexity. If you go below 500,000, people have said, oh, not below, sorry, below 50,000, people have said that it becomes pretty damn difficult to tell what's going on. So you have been warned there. But these things will impact your graphical niceness. Totally technical term there. Your graphical niceness quite a lot, so be careful there. I think you can also turn down view distance. I can't remember if I did that or not. I think I did actually. If mine's lower than yours, I turned it down. If it's not, then I didn't. But that can also help, I think, unless I didn't turn it down. If I didn't turn it down, leave it alone. If yours is the same as mine, leave it alone. But if it's lower, then it's fine. I really should have taken notes on this, but that is it for improving the frame rate in DayZ. To finish off, I will give you a little snippet of what the game actually looks like with these options set the way they are. Okay, so I am recording and I am currently getting 46 FPS. It's a bit higher when I'm not recording, obviously, and immediately upon joining the server I get the no message received thing, but you can kind of see how the game looks. There's a zombie over there. You can kind of see how the game looks. It's alright, it's acceptable. You can see like the grass hasn't quite come in properly at a distance. That's the scene complexity, I think, that does that. And the trees look a bit funny from a distance, but as you get closer they kind of fade in. So yeah, you get the idea. Hopefully this has helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. I will try and help you the best I can. Bye bye.